So, Creepshow Season 1 comes to an end with Episode 6, but it has been renewed for a second season. So, this first episode, or first segment anyways, is about the desire for a perfect body. This kind of reminds me a little bit of the body bag segment with Stacy Keach with the hair replacements and how the hair starts to take over his body and then they're little worms and they this and that. It feels very, very reminiscent of that. Which isn't a bad thing, but yet another thing where I'm like, it's not the most original story, but I mean, how can you be all that original anymore? I don't know. This episode, I liked the gore in this episode a lot. This segment was pretty good. I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this. I like the effects. I like the exploding heads. I like the exploding chests. I like the creature that crawls out of this guy. I'm digging all that stuff. So this segment overall, I was into. I definitely enjoyed it. As far as like, I don't have a lot to say though when it comes to this segment. I don't even really have much to say when it comes to the second segment, and that kind of just really is my point of this show. This is why I keep harping on the fact that I think that each episode should have been one story. I wanted them to have time to flesh things out. I think that this show would work much better if they just took their time. If they hired some writers that had some unique, cool ideas. Shit, hire me as a writer. I'll come in and I'll pitch you some ideas that, maybe they won't be wholly original, because I don't even know if that's possible anymore. But they'll be fresh takes at bare minimum on stuff we've seen a few times before. And that's all the best you can ask from something like this. It's just, every story is so quick. Every story is just kind of like, all right, either I've seen that a million times and this isn't the best version of that, or I feel like it's an interesting idea that isn't really fleshed out or explored upon. That's how I felt about what I would consider probably to be my favorite segment of this show, which is, what was the segment called? Like the House of Head or something, with that little girl's dollhouse and the head was going around and killing the family within the house. I thought that was great. But man, I would have watched the freaking whole movie, a whole episode at least, a whole 45-minute episode where they could have got deeper into it, where that was actually starting to take place in her house. What was happening in her dollhouse started to actually take place in her house. They had a great idea there, and it's just so short-lived. And I think the majority of people really liked that episode or segment, or they consider it their favorite as well. So I think that might be the best one. But man, everything is just so shallow that I don't have a lot to say. There's nothing deep about any of these. And horror doesn't call for anything too deep. But they're not rich. There's not a lot to discuss. There's not something I could go back and rewatch these multiple times and pick up other things that I'd never seen before, or revisit it like, oh man, I really love this one. This is such a classic. There's nothing like that in this show for me. Even my favorite one, I don't feel like I could watch it more than one more time without being like, okay, I've seen it. I'm good. That's what's great about classic movies. Even classic movies today, they will be classics eventually because there's such a rewatchability to them. And even if you can't watch them all the time because they're either too slow or they're kind of brutal to watch because of the subject matter and stuff, there's great things to discuss. There's conversations for a long extended period of time. And with this show, it's just not there. And then the second segment, it's, this young girl and she finds essentially the Loch Ness monster after her dad had went broke and died trying to find this thing. I can't even remember what the damn thing's called now. But she goes out there, and of course, there's a shithead stepdad who stepped in when their father died, but now he's this abusive piece of shit drunk, and they go out there and they're gonna claim this for her dad. She wants the dad to get to get the credit, and then of course the asshole stepdad comes out there and is like, "No, I'm taking credit for it. Your dad's dead. This is my one-way ticket out of here." Blah, blah, blah. And then we find out that it's just the baby and the real one's behind him and eats him. And, this is more family drama than horror. It doesn't really get into horror until the last second when the Loch Ness, the Nessie comes over and just chomps him and leaves his leg behind. It's an okay segment. I mean, like, if you explored upon it more in a film, if you would have actually taken that where the father had went out and he'd lost it, and then this girl goes out and she starts to find clues that maybe this monster actually existed, and then when she finds it, the stepdad shows up, he wants to take credit, he ends up getting himself killed, this and that. That sounds like a movie we've seen 100 times. Just insert different words. Instead of monster, it's, robots, or it's aliens, or it's whatever. We've seen these kinds of stories. So, as I said, it's hard to be wholly original, but there just isn't a lot to it. It just is so quick. But a 45-minute runtime with this could have been a condensed film, and you could have fleshed things out more, and we could have got to know the dad. We could have got to know the family, to care about their plight, to care about their situation. But we don't. It's so quick-lived that they're going for a dramatic angle. They're going for this family drama. They're going for this, daughter who wants to do right by her dad and vindicate his name and all this stuff. And it's like, it doesn't play out like that because we don't get to spend any time with these characters. So, I don't know, man. The season as it stands right now, because it's over now, and until we get to the next season, I was disappointed. I'm underwhelmed by the season. I'm hoping they throw some more money at it, and I hope that they do a much better job next season. I will be watching for sure, but I'm not all that excited. So, how do you guys feel? What are your thoughts on this season? What's your favorite segment? What do you think about this episode? Are you looking forward to a second season? Are you going to keep Shudder for the year until it comes through? Like, what are we thinking about Shudder? What are we thinking about Creepshow? What are we thinking about all of the above? So, let me know. I'll see you in the comments.